Thank you so much for being patient with us. Welcome to hashtag Mentorship Monday, our first one. Today we're featuring our lovely mentor, Mr. Motebang Moeketsi. I'm just gonna read his profile. I've prepared a very short profile, and then we'll get into it. All right. So Mr. Motebang Moeketsi is a project manager at Vodacom. His experience as a technology, media, and telecom specialist spans more than 10 years, and he holds a double major in computer science and electronics from the University of Cape Town. He's very passionate about people in the workplace and has been part of various committees that look at people's well-being in the workplace. Hi Motebang, how are you?
I'm okay, DK. How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah.
How are you feeling to be here today?
Slightly nervous. I usually don't do this. I'm usually not on the side of being asked questions, so I will try and compose myself as best as I can.
Yeah, so but you used to do radio, right? Tell us about that.
It's very funny because everybody actually thinks I used to do radio. I think I'm too much of a clown. I actually went into a studio because a friend was a DJ, and then actually went and had myself taking pictures. I've never told anybody no because I've loved how they pretty much believe that I did radio. So no, I didn't do radio.
Okay.
Yes, but I think that picture looks good.
It does.
I should have probably tried video.
Yeah, it does. So guys, you have the scoop. He's never done video. You got it first at Mentorship Mondays. All right, so Motebang, let's get into it. So Motebang is a mentor in our mentorship program. And one of the challenges that we're doing for our mentors is that they need to get themselves out there a little bit more. They are, some of them are specialists, experts, professionals who have a long experience or a lot of experience in their professions, and we think that they have a lot to share. And so this is one of the very many interviews or conversations that you'll get on the platform. So to start off, so you say you're a TMT specialist. Can you tell us more what a TMT specialist is?
Okay, thanks for the question. I think TMT is really more of a term or terminology that actually came much later, especially in telecoms, because initially when some of us went into telecommunications, it was really just more about telecommunications and nothing else. There was nothing else that was being offered. But when technology started advancing and more services started being offered over the old age telecommunications platforms, that's when the terminology needed to also change, because you realize that most of the services that the standard telcos used to offer have evolved. They are now offering a whole lot, including financial services actually.
Yeah.
Which is why now, instead of just being a telecommunications, we've now moved into TMT because it now encompasses a whole lot of services that we're now offering over the original let's just let you phone somebody else type of services. Yes.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much what TMT is, because you'll find that if you take any telco at random, they just don't offer sales of airtime anymore. It's airtime, it's media, it's a whole lot of other technologies. And when you start talking about Internet of Things, for instance, that's many other services that are being offered now that were never there before. So that is why now we went into calling it TMT.
Okay, wow. Yes. So how did you end up in this profession?
It was not by design, I have to admit. It's not like I sat there and thought, what do I want to be when I grow up? No, that question has always been very difficult to me. After graduation, obviously, the bulk of us always come back home, run around with a brown envelope trying to get whatever it is that you can get. So I did go into a small business that was more focused on networking and those type of basic IT services. And at the time, one of the network operators at home here needed resources. So our small business actually loaned me over to the say telco. And 2 months in, my manager, or the person that I was reporting to, actually started asking me, how much do they pay you? at that place. So I told him, he made me an offer, and that's actually how I got into telecoms. At that time, I was very fresh out of school, didn't even know what this telecoms thing is. It was just himself and myself in the office, just the two of us, meaning billing and IT and everything. So it was quite hectic, to be honest, but it taught me a lot, because at that time I had to really understand fully what is that our department actually needed to do. So I managed to then get an appreciation of the entire business from that point. And since then, I pretty much can say I worked myself all the way up in various departments: business development, billing, mobile money, which is pretty much where I found myself being a whole lot more interested in at this point in time. So yeah, it was not an intentional move, but I think I really loved where I ended up.
Okay. Do you feel like your background in computer science and electronics prepared you for a career in telecoms? Was that in any way beneficial as you look back at your career, and in what way, if it was?
Yeah. The answer is definitely. The question is definitely helped, because that's how I managed to get into the industry from the perspective of having done computers and electronics. So the point that I started in telecoms was very hands-on in terms of um, others would actually say getting your hands dirty. I literally was deep down grinding, and obviously my background in IT managed to assist me there, because if you take what I was doing right at the beginning, I was writing scripts, I was doing billing pretty much manually, unlike what our people do now with automated stuff. I There's something they call a bill run in telecoms, where I think everywhere pretty much, where you basically say, okay, it's month end, all our postpaid subscribers, let's see how much they owe us, and then you run that entire process, and then the following day finance comes in and they do that stuff. I would sit on the 30th or 31st of every month and do that the entire night, such that when finance comes in the morning, everything is ready for them to take on and to do their processes. Sometimes that would go wrong. I would have to do a rollback, and this is me by myself in the office. I would have to roll back that entire process, and if it hasn't really gone well by 5 a.m., I know that now I need to raise an alarm such that they understand that the billing has not happened, and it means we don't know how much we made for the previous month. And so you can imagine how much pressure that actually gave one. But I have to say, it's something that really got me to really appreciate the entire process of what goes on, from somebody calling to the business actually getting their money. So the entire value chain, I got to appreciate that very much. So without my IT background, I would not be able to run scripts. I would not be able to actually understand what the nitty-gritty of all that involves. So I think to a large extent, yes, indeed, it did help me. And also, even to where I am today, it's always easy for somebody to move from a technical background to commercial. I've always felt that. I've hardly ever seen anybody actually moving from commercial to technical. Yes, except if you are now moving from commercial to technical as a CTO or something. Yes. That.
Why do you think it's easier? Why do you think it's easier for people to move?
I don't want to say commercials are soft. I know people sometimes they'll start telling you about soft skills and whatnot. But the truth of the matter is, it's, if you were to move from commercial to technical, there are a lot of basics that you will have to go back and learn. Right? And commercial basics, it's easier to learn them along the way. Yes, it's a bit easier to learn them along the way, which is what I think the difference is. So as I was starting to appreciate, like I was saying earlier, how the business runs from the technical side of things all the way to when the business gets their money, I could then start picking up certain things along the way. And I think that helped a lot in terms of me then being able to appreciate the commercial side. And then at some point, I then left that role of being very technical and became a business development manager, which then meant I'm somehow a bridge between understanding the technicality behind the product and also appreciating the commercial side of it. So that for me, I think is what really made me to really appreciate business side of things and start loving it more and be able to really add more value from that perspective. Because at that point, as a business development manager, you're supposed to actually come up with products sometimes to say, listen, guys, I think the market is going in this direction. We should really look into that. And now you need to also understand, if you're saying that, is this going to be technically feasible? Is that also going to bring us money at the end of the day? So you need to tie all of that together. So I think all those different roles that I found myself playing, I think they helped in really building somebody that you could say is sort of kind of well-rounded, if I was to say that.
And I think it's an evolution from where previously you used to have somebody that is very, very technical, then having to lead without necessarily having had the commercial, experience as well. And then it would have, like, you'd have this person that is very far removed from the business side of whatever technical issue they understand. And I've seen that now, like when you get a manager, somebody that goes into management or executive management, it's people that are like well-rounded, all-rounded.
You definitely need that. You definitely need that. I think even now, what I've also looked at is, I think we also need to start bringing the commercial people also to have some sort of appreciation of understanding on what technically this means. Because if you have somebody who goes and says, listen, we need 1, 2, 3 products in the market because, hey, let's just say people want them, but not understanding what that means technically and what the requirements are going to be technically. You might even find that, fine, yes, that might bring some element of revenue, but the cost implications to actually have that happen technically is just not going to make sense. So if we don't have that appreciation along the entire value chain, it becomes a problem.
All right. So when you reflect on all these experiences, I get like what you were learning, like in terms of your technical skill, right? You spoke about the fact that you were doing things very manually, like that particular process that you're describing. I'm familiar with, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that is like automated nowadays, right? So what do you think, what skills did you learn in that process of doing like things repetitively, having to roll back something that you did and try and see where the problem is? What skills, what life skills did you learn in the process?
I think the one skill that I'm also, I would say, even happier that I learned at that particular time is the ability to shout. No, I'm serious. I know that you're gonna crack up. The ability to shout when you are not getting where you believe you need to, or when you're not necessarily seeing the light. And I'll make an example with this very same issue that you're talking about. When I got into Telecoms, like I was saying, it was just the two of us with my manager in the office, right? The person that whose shoes I was getting into had just left the business and gotten a job somewhere in Joburg, right? I had never met this person before, right? So I get into this role, and then I'm supposed to be doing bill runs and whatever. I don't know what these things are. So I'm having a conversation with my manager, and then he says, hey, guy, some of those things I'm not very clued up on. Here's a number. Call this guy, right?
That you've never met.
I've never met him. Wow. Talk to him. He's a nice person. That's what he said. He's like, talk to him. He's a nice person. I called him. Said, guy, this is Motebang Moeketsi, so and so. This is the role I'm playing. I've been made aware that this is the job that we're doing. I don't know if you have time, but I would really like if you could take me through 1, 2, 3. True to God, he was a nice person.
Wow.
Yes. He took me through that process. Believe me, I think that for the first 2 months, when I was doing that bill run, he would actually be on call with me. I would just tell him, guy, I've got the instructions. I'm gonna go through what you've said I should do. If I hit a stumbling block, I'm gonna give you a shout. Like I said, I was doing this at night. I would give him a call at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., and he would wake up and say, no, do 1, 2, 3, try this and try that. And even today, we're still very close friends, to be honest, because like I'm saying, he's one of the people who I think allowed me to to be vulnerable, allowed me to say, I don't have to pretend like I know. If I do understand that I don't know, I can't figure this thing out, I should be able to actually shout. Because truth is, generally people are nice, to be honest. I'm not disputing that you'll have a few. I'm not disputing that you'll have a few who are not so nice, but generally people are nice, and people won't be mean to you without a reason. Generally, so that's what I also picked up when I was saying, when I was interacting with him, and it allowed me to say, up until somebody says to you, "No, I don't want to help you," there's no reason why you should not ask. So that's exactly what I was saying. The life skill that I picked up out of it was shout.
Ask for help.
Shout.
Ask for help.
Yes.
Ask for help, guys.
Shout.
All right. So when you're talking about this person, right, that helped you, it sounds to me like this person was a mentor or was a coach. I'm not really sure which one, because I know sometimes you get these definitions and stuff.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I want to get into the role that mentorship played in your career. Yeah. Is this somebody that you would consider to have been a mentor to you? And what other mentors have you had along the way? What role has mentorship played in your career?
I think one of the things that we talked about when we had some sessions, somebody actually mentioned that you can have different types of mentors all at the same time.
Yeah.
I had never thought about this one individual as a mentor.
Me, just so you know.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
All right, because I have all this.
Nice to know that.
Yeah.
So I had never thought about this individual as a mentor, to be honest. I have actually always just thought about them as a very good friend. But when it comes to that particular area where I obviously needed guidance, I needed hand-holding, I needed. He was definitely there. He was definitely the person I could go back to and say, "Guy, listen, I need your help here, this one." So I don't know whether I could classify him as a mentor, because I think, like you're saying, we do have various definitions for mentors and coaches, but it was definitely a pillar. Let me put it like that. It was definitely a pillar. So that's him. And then the second person I could talk about is the person who gave me my first job, or my first real job. Saying first real job because sometimes you're like receptionist at varsity, so that doesn't really count.
Okay.
That doesn't really count. So when I came back home from school, I was walking around with a brown envelope looking for somebody to hire me. And I remember I was in a 4+1 coming back from industrial area, and there was a small business there called Envatech. A lot of people don't know it. Not too people don't understand what I'm talking about. But so I got out of it. Yes, I got out of the taxi, and then I walked in, and obviously they asked me what I'm looking for. I had dreadlocks. Like, you see how your dreadlocks are? I had dreadlocks. They're like somewhere down there. So I get in there and I tell them, listen, I'm looking for a job. I don't know what you guys do. I saw that you are a technology company, but I'm fresh out of school. I'm looking for something. So they said, okay, I'm going to go ahead and mention his name. They said, right? But if you could come tomorrow, he will be around. True to form, tomorrow I was there. And then it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I was told there was somebody. So I sit down across the table, I talk. And then he didn't want to see my paper. Honestly speaking, he refused to look at my paper. I actually asked him why. I can't remember what he told me. And then he said to me, we just literally talked about school, about whatever it is that I was doing, and we spoke. And then he said, all right, come to work on Monday. So I didn't understand what that meant. What do you mean, should I come to this place again on Monday to hear what? No, it's like, no, come to work on Monday.
Yeah.
I left. Monday, 2 to 4 hours of work. And what they did, it's not something that we did in school. UCT we do a lot of programming. Electronics, we do a lot of those other funky stuff. But here they used to do a lot of networking, which is a very tiny part that we get introduced to, but never really go into detail. So I tell him, yo, listen, this is what I know. I see that you guys do something different. It's like, yeah, you can't tell me that you are unable to learn.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, so it's like, yeah, but I don't understand what the problem is. You can't tell me that you're unable to learn. So it's like, okay. So I had to really learn all the networking stuff from scratch with guidance and everything. There were a couple of other people that we were working with that introduced me to. They were very friendly as well. As I said to you, generally people are friendly, to be honest. So he introduced me to them. They would take me along as they go to different ministries that were helping, different businesses that were helping, and I gathered a lot of experience from then on. And I spent, I think, around, because I joined them at around February, and when they loaned me out, it was around September. I promise you, at that time, I was now able to go to a client and go sort them out all by myself. Yeah. Wow. He introduced me to a lot of other different technologies that we were doing at that time, which are still being introduced even now, because he's let's just say he's very open to somebody who wants to learn. So for me, that is one other person who played a very key role. If you are willing to learn, he has absolutely no problem in dishing everything out. So I appreciate, as I said to you, generally people are nice, right?
Yeah.
This is because he gave me a job without knowing me from a bar soap.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Even up to today, I know that I still meet up with him so many times, and luckily I even got to work with him as well in one of the telcos that I worked for. And he, like I'm saying, he's played a very pivotal role over the years. So for me, I've really appreciated that. And if we're gonna talk about somebody that can put a label of mentor to, which between ourselves had never really come up, but that would be a label I could actually put there, because like I'm saying, I gathered a lot, and I'm probably where I am today because of that first chance that he gave me that I then took. Funny enough, even when the people who I was loaned to wanted to give me an offer, the first thing he actually asked was, how much are they giving you? And if they're giving you a small amount of money, no.
Don't take it.
Yeah, I would rather be the one paying you that money. Yeah. So he also even played a role in terms of the negotiating all of that. He didn't stand in my way
when you had to move
when I
on.
No.
Wow, that is very interesting, because I know, okay, firstly, the point that I want to make is that I feel like you did a lot to get the best out of that mentorship relationship. Right? What I've seen is that sometimes people get into mentorship relationships, but they expect the mentor to do all the work. They expect the mentor to call them. They expect the mentor to say, here's a learning opportunity, you know. But the mentorship relationships that work is when you play that role. And I can certainly feel that that's what you did. You were committed to the learning. He was like, here's an opportunity. You do with it what you want. Then the other thing is mentors that don't want to let people thrive, right? And I actually don't consider them mentors, because you get people that say, you know, I made you who you are, so you owe me. And that is not mentorship at all, right? And I'm glad that when it came time for him to say, I think you'll get a better learning opportunity. I can see you growing beyond, you know, how much you can grow here. Take that opportunity. And till the end, he was still willing to put your best interests first.
I'm saying, like, it was so interesting that even when I had left the business, when they had like your Christmas parties and all that, I know that I would get an invite to say, "Hey, listen, where are you? We are getting together, blah blah." So I think for me, that's a platform that a lot of people need to start looking to give to other people. Yes. I think that's that. Yeah, I think that's really where I am. When we talk about people, and I know that I've said this before, I think for some of us who have had an opportunity to be where we are and have the ability to reach out our hand and get somebody else to come, that's the one that we really just need to do. I think if we could just do that,
give people a chance.
Yeah, if we could just do that, to be honest, the world would be a much better place.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a powerful story. That's a really powerful story. So on the mentorship tip, right? You have been a mentor now in this program. I know you've been a mentor before, but you've been a mentor in this program now for the past year, for the past 8 months, since January. What is the one lesson that you've learned, like, from this particular mentorship experience, as far as like you and your mentee? Just that.
I think generally when people say you're going to be a mentor and you have a mentee, immediately, by virtue of having those two labels, it's almost like there's a hierarchy of some sort, right? And the unfortunate thing with that unsaid hierarchy is that it almost assumes that the flow of knowledge is going to be one way.
From the mentor to the mentee. Yeah.
And that is the one key thing that I, like you're saying, I have mentioned before, I came in making sure that I'm constantly aware of not letting it happen.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm constantly aware of not letting it happen. And the one time that I thought was very interesting, we have like regular calls with my mentee, right? So sometimes when we've now talked, I've obviously asked questions about this and that, and I remember right towards the end of our call, she says, "So how are you doing?" So I'm thinking,
you were not expecting that.
One, that's what you say to somebody when you start the conversation. We're at the end. I don't understand. And I was like, huh? She's like, no, how are you doing? Like, what's happening with you? So one, I was very happy she asked me that. Two, it took me back because I think when I thought, okay, it's time for our call, I went in prepared to ask her certain questions to find out where she is with what we had discussed, blah, 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 blah. I don't think I prepped for yes. So that's why I was saying it took me by surprise, but it was very interesting that she actually got me to really think, because I wasn't going to give her a, I'm fine, how are you? You understand? So she really got me to think, to say, oh, okay. So I started talking about work, I started talking about blah, blah, and it was very interesting because at the end of the day, it then got that two-way street thing to say, you know what, I could also say things to you and you could probably give me a different view rather than if I'm sitting here and thinking about this one thing by myself. So so I think that's the one key thing that I think every time when you go into such a relationship, people need to be open to that. To say, listen, this has to be both ways, because yes, I need to also get some learnings from this person. It's not like I'm on a world of knowledge and I'm just gonna
And I think that's also something that is quite that was quite key for us in this program, but I didn't think that it would be achieved through the one-on-ones. Like the design was that through the group sessions when we're all together and we're talking, we're talking a topic through that, you'll be like, oh, that was really, that was smart, or oh, that was useful. But I certainly didn't think about it through the one-on-one. So it's amazing to hear that. And I also think that a lot of people are reluctant to get into, mentors, people that could potentially be mentors, sometimes are reluctant to get into that mentorship relationship because they don't know how it will benefit them. And I mean, as people, like even when you start a business, you always think about what value will I get? What's in it for me? And I think what you're sharing, for me, it says you will also learn from this person that you wouldn't particularly think you learn a lot from.
But I think the important part on the what's in it for me is the more we keep using what's in it for me as a basis of a decision making of this nature, as the more we'll never be able to actually give other people a hand that I was talking about. And that for me is the problem. Yes. Because sometimes you should be able to literally just give your time, your knowledge, your effort, just because it can benefit the other person and nothing for you.
Nothing else.
So for me, if we could have that as the factor that actually makes your decision making, then we're well on a good way. But if you're always going to look at what's in it for me, then we'll never do anything, because then there's not much that's going to come from you doing it.
And I think one of the learnings I've gotten from this mentorship program and many other things I've been involved in is that sometimes you don't see the value directly. Like you won't see what this benefits you, but later on someone says, because you've done this, we think you're well positioned for this. We think you stand out better from other candidates if you're applying for a job or something, because you've actually been part of a formal mentorship program or whatever it is, So something that we also really teach our mentees is that sometimes you don't see the value in something as you do it. But later on, when you look back, you'll be like, oh wow, this prepared me for something else. And I think that's also important to note. All right, so one of the things that, you know, I enjoy doing as an accountant is keeping track on, well, I'm actually not an accountant anymore. I'm trying to like get rid of this accountant thing. But it's to be aware of what's going on in the industry. And I think it's one of like things that are really important as a professional. Definitely. You know, not to just be involved in your day-to-day, but to know what the developments are in your industry or in other industries that will affect you. How do you keep up to date with that? And what are some of the developments in your profession that you are excited about right now?
I think the beauty of my industry, I think, is that it's very old. And over time, there has been many developments and new technologies and that has warranted a lot of continuous publications to always be up. We have many different sites. We have GSMA, that is definitely GSMA being them.
I'm just somewhere.
I know.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's really just an association that is focused on mobile. Not even mobile, actually, on telecommunications, really, as a whole. And they are very well known in producing a lot of papers, doing a lot of surveys, and really just constantly putting out what's new, what are the trends look like, and for me, that is one key source that I usually use.
Do you have to be a member as an individual?
If you want a lot of in-depth and insights, then you have to be a member. But you can also be a member through your organization.
Yeah.
Yes. So if you're a member through your organization, then so I've been in telecoms for more than 10 years now, and in both organizations that I've worked for, I always had access to GSMA and information. So I've never really looked into being a member individually, I think. But for me, that is one key place that I actually use to get a lot of new trends, new information. But what I think is really coming up now, it's products in the mobile financial space. Definitely, because if you think about it, once upon a time, you had your landline, right? And then we moved onto mobile phones. We started to buy airtime, and then at some point, data came around. Now we're starting to buy data. But as far as telecommunications is concerned and improvements, as far as I think, I don't see anything that we're going to do beyond making data faster and probably always making ways to make it cheaper. That's probably things that are going to happen.
I'll be at the forefront of that.
Exactly. And also seeing voice declining because people now are doing WhatsApp calls, right? That, to me, is what is going to happen as far as is concerned. But in the mobile financial space, we're now seeing a lot of other services which were never traditional telecoms services, now overlaying on top of your phone. Your phone now, before you could send an SMS call, and that was probably it. Now, if you don't have a phone in your hand, a lot of things stop, right? A lot of things stop. So the number of services that have been overlaid on top of your mobile phone are crazy. Now, the mobile financial space is, for me, is one area that is greenfield for a lot of opportunities. You have your insurance businesses out there, you have your mobile financial institutions. Everybody used to have their own brick and mortar structure to offer whatever their services. You can get all of those on your phone right now. Honestly speaking. So we're starting to disrupt many traditional services. Many. Where people are gonna, if you're not offering services that you have on the go for people, you're going to be left behind. It's as simple as that, to be honest. So you need to start figuring out, unless your business is that of moving some physical stuff, you have no business not being able to make sure that if somebody is looking at their phone, they can acquire your services at that point in time. Yes.
So what does this mean for you as a professional? The fact that your industry is actually like moving, and has been for a while, moving into a whole lot of other industries. Does this present more opportunities for you? Does it challenge you in terms of your skills? What does it mean? What keeps you up at night when you think about this?
I think one of the things that has kept me in the telco space for as long as this has happened is because it has been a constant learning curve, right?
Learning,
Remember where I said I started? And then after that, I had to move into business development, which means I needed to really, really understand the industry in terms of how it performs. And then at around 2012, I was at the center of introducing the first mobile money product in the country, right? At that point in time, nobody had any clue what mobile money is, right? Literally, the central bank had to go to Tanzania for some time to go do some learning in terms of how to legislate this thing. Came back, we didn't even have an act. We were using guidelines for the longest time ever because they're still trying to figure out how to, So that was definitely one big learning that I also had to get into because I didn't know what this is. I had to go do up a lot of reading, figure out other places where they've done it and see how it's been done. Fast forward a couple of years later, I was also now heading this mobile financial department, and one of the products that we were now offering is mobile insurance. I had absolutely no clue what insurance is. Somebody was like, okay, funeral policy, that's as far as I knew insurance, you understand?
Yeah.
So I also now needed to go in and really, really understand what insurance is. And so for me, it means constantly we're always learning.
Yeah.
And that's what I've always liked about it. Now,
so you can't be stuck.
No.
You can't be like, I did computer science, so I need to be a programmer or...
Listen, the last time I programmed was when I was writing my UCT final exam, got my degree. I've never programmed since then, to be honest.
Wow.
So,
and you said the bulk of your degree was actually programming. That's what you guys were
exactly.
doing. Wow.
So interestingly enough, actually, having said that, just before I graduated, I realized that I'm not getting 100%, right? Papers always come back 60, 58 here and there, things like that. So naturally, if I'm in school and I want to go out there and be an IT something, and I'm getting a 60 on my paper, it means when I get to work, there's a 40% that I don't know, right? That's what I thought.
That's how you would.
That's how I processed that, and it scared me. It scared me. So I spoke to a friend of mine who had gone to the National University. He had graduated ahead of me. He was already working when I was still in school. So I called him. I'm freaking out because I can see the exams are around about the corner, and then I don't understand what's going to happen. I call him, and then he says to me, "Guy, I had a similar problem, right?" And then when I started working, what I realized was university teaches you how to learn. It doesn't teach you everything that you're going to be doing out there.
Of course.
That's what it says. University teaches you how to learn.
Yeah.
That for me has never left my mind because since then, I've literally always understood that I have the capacity
to learn
that I don't have a problem with it.
Wow.
Yes, I'm not going to know it when I see it for the first time, but I'm definitely going to know it.
Yeah. Wow.
So
this is quite interesting because I talk to a lot of people and they say, like let's say employers, right? And they say one of the challenges we have in the country is that university students come out of university not work ready. So putting that in this context, what is work readiness then? What does it mean?
So that baffles me honestly when anybody says that because I don't understand. That almost insinuates that if somebody says I'm an accountant and I'm coming out of CAS or whatever it is, as soon as you come into the office first day, you should be ready to make sure that you know how to close books and do all of that stuff. That's what it insinuates. And I think that's wrong because pretty much anybody in any corporate, anywhere right now has had to start somewhere.
Yeah. Somebody
literally had to show them how to do what they're doing. Yes, maybe in certain cases they had to go and read up by themselves, but bottom line, they started from zero. They had to learn whatever it is that they know today. Even if they leave their workplace now and go into a new environment, they are still going to learn certain things in that environment. Yes, maybe experience here and there will help, but they're still going to learn. So for me, saying such, I'm not aligned.
I agree with you.
I'm not aligned with it.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think we just need to create a culture of work environments that allow learning and that encourage people to learn. All right. So the last part of our conversation is about like looking back, right? When you look back, when you started work, you probably felt overwhelmed. You probably felt like, I don't know, what I want to be. I don't know, like what work is all about.
Yeah.
So if you were to talk to somebody who is a young Motebang, I don't know how old you were when you had set across that there who helped you start your career, but what would you say to somebody that maybe just graduated, maybe in your field or not even just in your field, who is going into the world of work? What advice would you give them?
Truth is, I think oftentimes we want to rush into labeling ourselves and defining ourselves as a certain thing. I remember having a conversation with somebody some time back, and they were still fresh out of school, and they started talking about an MBA. Fresh out of school. Why do you want to do an MBA? So I think the best thing that anybody should ever do for themselves is to want to be exposed to as much as possible. Even if you get into an organization, learn everything about it, right? Everything about it, understand every corner of it. The thing is, we sometimes want to dictate what is it that we're going to enjoy doing.
Yeah, even before we've tried something.
Thank you. We don't let ourselves to actually get to discover that which we enjoy doing. You understand?
Yeah.
And I think that's the one key thing that I think a lot of times we do as is a problem for me. Yes, we label ourselves way too quick. And that tends to be very detrimental in everything that we do. So try and expose yourself to as much as you can, and you will land into that thing that actually makes you tick. And allow that to happen. A year, 2, 3 even, allow that to happen. And when it does, you will know what it is that you need to spend your time in. And maybe one last thing would be, for me, I've also met other people sometimes who are worried about their weaknesses and stuff like that. I think people who have probably been exposed to SWOT and
all these personality assessments.
And then somebody comes back and then they're really, really worried about, some of my weaknesses. I don't care about my weaknesses, to be honest. What I've always said is be aware of them, but do not spend effort trying to make your weakness to become a strength. No. Understand what your strengths are, excel in that, outsource the rest of the stuff that you don't know how to do to people who really, really know how to do them. We are all different. There are very different things that other people do better than you do. Understand that, you know what, I do at least know this to appreciate what you're telling me, but I'm not going to try and do it as well as, if you're going to come here and talk about taxation things, DK, I am not going to try and be an expert in taxation. You understand? It's things that I'm going to know just to be aware so I can understand what you're saying, but I know who the expert is. You know what I mean? I think my mentee will probably tell you that we're having a conversation with her, and then when we got to the taxation issues, I told them, hold up, I know somebody. Yes, I know somebody. I will get her to come and fill this gap, because for me, I'm not going to do justice in trying to teach her or tell her about taxation. You understand? So that is one thing that we should be able to do, to say, one, don't label ourselves too quickly, and two, always make sure that you are aware of your weaknesses, but don't spend your effort and time in trying to make them your strengths. No.
Wow, that's powerful. My ex-boss used to say, manage your weaknesses to an acceptable level. So for example, if time management is not your thing, just manage it. Like, obviously when you work, you need to be there at 8 or whatever, so just manage it to the level that is acceptable, and that's it.
Don't try and turn it into a strength, because you're going to spend a lot
more
of
time and energy. And what we need to spend time on is, as you say, sharpening our strengths, getting better and better and better at our strengths. This is a very interesting conversation. I think we could go on forever. So one thing that you mentioned, I think I wanted to touch on, where you said you think if somebody starts working, they should just focus on working, like actually doing the work, understanding themselves, and like discovering themselves. And that's one of the reasons why we decided with the mentorship program that we're going to focus on professionals that have worked a minimum of 3 years. is because we believe, and this is from like my own experience, that the first 3 years of working, you really, like, no one expects you to do like a 10-year plan of where you want to take your profession. It's really just all about learning, just taking anything that they put in front of you, hollering when you need help, just going for it and learning and putting your head down, putting in overtime if you need to, just work. Yes.
If I was to tell you, no, but actually this is interesting that you mentioned overtime. So when I was then working, remember I kept saying that it was just the two of us in the office, right? And I used to work like at night and all that. I used to leave the office probably sometimes at around 1, and I'll be back in the office at around 7 a.m.
Yeah.
For a very long time, right? They had...
and were you getting paid for it? Or
so that's the thing.
Yeah.
The policy at work was that you would get paid for overtime. And they didn't have a problem with you when you claimed your overtime. I didn't have time to claim my overtime. I am serious. I did not have time to claim my overtime. But luckily, when we went in, we would register, and then even when you go out, you would register, do the same thing. I remember when I claimed my overtime, I came to work on a Saturday, and I went to the security guard. I got all those papers, went into the office, sat down, and filled overtime forms, right? They had to query it with HR because I think it was like 15K or something like that.
Yeah.
Yes, at that time it was like 2000 and something.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I then had to explain that, guys, I never had time to claim overtime
because I was too busy.
That's how busy I was at that time.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. In my when we were doing articles and stuff, we would also work overtime. I mean, some of it you could claim, but some of it, like, you were learning something, like you were struggling through something, so it wasn't going to go to the client, and like the lesson that I learned there was like, it was my learning, it was for my benefit.
100%.
So it's okay if you're not gonna pay it. This is going to benefit me in the long run, so it's fine. Wow. All right. Thank you so much for this conversation. We're almost done. The last question that I have for you is, what's next for you? So right now you're a project manager. You're working on, I think, exciting projects. What are you looking forward to since you've had all this experience? What are you looking forward to in the next 10 years or 5 years of your career?
Thanks. I think for me, the one thing that will probably really make me feel good, and one might argue that maybe I'm going to do this selfishly, but it's not a problem. I want to find, or at least put together some sort of a platform that builds people. And that was another major reason why when you called me about this, I agreed almost immediately. Because I think that we don't do that enough. Especially for some of us who have had, I would say, who have been lucky enough to be where we are in life. We don't reach out enough to help other people. And in my organization now, as we speak, I've also been involved in certain campaigns or certain initiatives that are looking into helping others who are not even within the organization. There are a number of projects that they do where they're focusing on SMEs, focusing on new startups, and so those are things that I definitely want to find myself getting involved in a whole lot more than I currently am, because I think, and you know how I usually get about the state of our country. We've had these conversations over and over, but the truth of the matter is, talking can only get us so far.
Nowhere.
And that's why I'm doing this, like, because
really,
it's the doing that is probably going to really get us a whole lot further. And the question is, what little role can each one of us play in making sure that we really do that? So that's why I'm saying I am looking into putting some platform. I still don't have the nitty-gritties of what this will go, but I've been happy looking around to see that a number of people already are doing whatever little that they can. And I think every one of us where we are, if we have some sort of that platform that we can put together like that, I think we'll definitely get somewhere. So that's where I'm looking to. Because as far as
it's an extension of Inspire Mentorship Program. Pressure.
Trust me, we'll talk about that. But that is really where I think, DK, we should really focus on, to be honest, because there's nothing that's going to change.
Yeah.
That's coming externally.
Yeah.
Anything that's going to change right now is going to come from within, from each one of us.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm focusing.
Yeah, I love that. And I think in the past we used to wait for the rich people or somebody that has like 60, 70 years as a professional to when they retire to then think about how they're going to give back. But what I really love about being in this country actually at this moment is because people like you and I, people that don't have a trust fund yet for their children, people that don't have that many resources, are saying, you know, with the little that I have, I am going to make sure that I take other people with.
That makes a difference. Honestly, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah. So thank you. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, we will end here. We could go on forever, but we won't do that today. So thank you so much for joining us on this platform. I went through our Facebook page and we don't have any questions today, but if you have any questions, we'll cover them in the next session. We will be having these sessions every Monday, #Mentorship Monday. Thank you.
Thank you. I do appreciate the platform, and I hope a lot of other people can actually get something out of it.
For sure. Thank you so much.
All right.
All right.